Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and perhaps I should say welcome back. We've returned from Geneva and we're ready to get back down to business with Mailbag. I'm joined by Jason Mane of Watchbox today. Jason.
I'm back. We're back.
We are indeed. We're going to go with a few of your live questions, some of the questions you forwarded to me. I had a few queries about the show itself, and of course, the topic on everyone's lips, SIHH, just barely in the rearview mirror. It's time to recap. It's time to summarize, it's time to pick winners, and maybe even some losers. So tonight, wrist shots and stories. First and foremost, Jason, what are you wearing?
Today I am wearing, actually just put it back on today. I was wearing the Panerai for a little while. The classic ceramic non-date, 114060. And spent a little bit too long in the watch box and had to get brought back out.
That's right. That's where we got the name. But the cool thing about that watch is that was a long time kind of grail level watch for you, and you finally decided to pull the trigger. And just for guys watching, what is your wrist size? Because I know a lot of folks are always like, you know, 40mm Rolex, they haven't changed that much even with the super case. It looks good on your wrist, but your wrist is much, much larger than mine. Have you ever measured it?
Yeah, it's 7 3/4, pretty much, you know, maybe a little smaller than that, depends on the weather. It fits fine. You know, it's at first, this was a piece that for a long time I was back and forth on. Didn't know if it was too small. I eventually came to the realization I wanted it, and I think it wears fine. You know, I go from the 44mm PAM 510 back to this on and off, and it wears just fine. I do think that the larger case of the newer generation piece sits better on a larger wrist, but.
So there you go, guys. You don't have to go 44 with Hublot and Panerai to wear a sports watch on a big wrist. Rolex Super Case will get you there. Now, here's the watch I'm wearing tonight. It's my Reverso Duo. Now, it's got the night and day AM/PM indicator. There we go right there, and you can see that beautiful white gold engine-turned base. Now, this is the watch I should have worn to SIHH this year, and I'd planned to. It's a dual time. It's handsome, traditional, stylish. It's the iconic JLC. Instead, I forgot to change my watch the night I left, so I wound up taking the Compressor Extreme Tides of Time Memovox and World Time. So the Master Compressor Extreme World Alarm, and it became almost like a heretical statement this year at JLC as everything went vintage and classical, and the Polaris collection became the sports watch line. So I was bringing this like bombastic statement from the mid-2000s straight to the temple of Polaris, and it was a little bit like, is really that's what you wanted to wear? But I think at the end of the day, it's how you wear it, not what you wear. All right, guys, so tonight we're going to do a this or that, but I want to remind you that Watch You Want is now Watchbox. We've got a new website, tons of fun, the best way to buy, sell, and trade watches. New watches posted every single day. New arrivals is what I check daily. This is actually how I search for my watches. And yes, you'll see quite a few videos by yours truly. Remember, you can also sell your watch, and we answer 24 hours a day. So remember to check thewatchbox.com to keep the fun going after the broadcast. This or that, guys. SIHH 2018 Super Watches. So, Richard Mille RM 5301 Tourbillon Pablo Mac Donough, the shock-resistant, indestructible polo watch, or Greubel Forsey's GMT Earth, a super watch that is super large, super intricate, and super complicated. So, Jason, for those who haven't seen this feature, I'm going to give Jason two options, tell him a little bit about each watch, and now he knows, but I'm going to give him the details just in case, and then he's going to tell me which one he would rather own. So, Richard Mille RM 5301 Tourbillon Pablo Mac Donough, the sequel to 2012's RM 53. The watch is 45.5 millimeters wide by about 49.9 millimeters lug to lug. It's not quite as big as it looks, but the watch is the tonneau case for the first time in the Pablo Mac Donough collection. The 2012 RM 53 was a weird looking watch. It was almost like a Richard Mille crossed with a cartoon frog. Now that you've seen it, you can't unsee it. But the key thing here is that the Pablo Mac Donough has reclaimed the tonneau form with the same degree of durability. Now it features an armored or laminated sapphire crystal, two pieces of sapphire where they've actually cut it down the thinwise, and then they've superimposed the back onto the front with a polymer layer of basically plastic and glue between them. Like the double laminated windows of an armored car or contemporary Mercedes S-Class, it's only 2.4 millimeters thick, but you can whack it with a mallet or even a hammer and not completely shatter it. It'll go all spider cracked, but it will not give way. It also features a caliber RM5301 that is both beautiful to look at and robust. Manual wind 70-hour tourbillon. It features two grade 5 titanium base plates. Rather than being at the center of the movement, the base plates actually sandwich both sides. And they're mounted on 10 pulleys with two 1/4 millimeter steel wires. So 10 pulleys and 2 wires, giving it a little bit of a trampoline effect to make it more shock resistant. I will say that all told, it gives the watch resistance up to 5,000 instantaneous Gs. Velcro and leather, an interesting strap option, also ships with a gummy silicone strap in Argentine blue. Finally, 30 pieces, $900,000 US, so it's going to be both rare and expensive. Okay, Greubel Forsey Earth GMT, the watch that you've been looking at for the last 30 seconds. This is Greubel Forsey's take on the travel watch. 3 time zones are actually visible on the front between the 2 dials and the 24-hour 360-degree globe. Now the watch is 45.5 millimeters round in white gold, about 16 millimeters thick. It features the white gold case with sapphire windows in the flanks, so you can actually see the profile of that gorgeous spherical globe. Now the watch has the 360-degree globe, many viewports, a wonderfully domed and box section crystal on the top, and then it features a 30-degree, 24-second inclined tourbillon. So it has that 24-second tourbillon that you remember from the Vision 24-second series, inclined as ever since the very first Greubel Forsey tourbillon, and almost manic in that it makes 2 circuits every minute, 2 circuits and then some. Finally, manual wind 72-hour power reserve. It features incredible finishing, but to a sort of, shall we call it, idiosyncratic frosted fashion that is unique to Greubel Forsey. And then finally, 33 pieces at an estimated $653,000 US. They wouldn't say precisely. That's a lot of money. So here's the question. Do you go with the ultimate travel watch or the ultimate sports watch?
You good? That was a lot of...
Yeah, that was one breath.
Yeah. All right. I guess it really comes down to, so generally it's which watch would I own and wear for the this or that. It's kind of tough.
And no choosing the more expensive one to sell it and buy the other.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, I'm not spending $600,000 on a watch. If I had it, I wouldn't, to be honest with you. I think in this particular case, when we're talking about super watches and stuff that's obviously unobtainable, it's which one would I actually wear. And while I think that the Forsey has a better legs to stand on as far as mechanical superiority, I think the RM is something that I would actually wear and go out of my way to try and give it a life that it could be happy to take some abuse, because this is what this watch is made for. I think the watch, for what it is, sits pretty well on the wrist from all accounts that I've seen so far. Seems to have the hype, and let's face it, that's what RMs are about. You put the watch on your wrist, everybody knows what you're wearing, it's going to retain some retail, they do really well in the secondary market. It's definitely a showstopper, and I think the Forsey is more of a watch guy's type of watch, and while I could totally see just staring into the thing for a long time, I feel like I would wear the RM.
Yeah, you know, I have to actually agree with you here, even though generally I think 9 times out of 10 I would be a Greubel Forsey guy. There's a company that makes 80 to 100 watches a year in its La Chaux-de-Fonds headquarters, and Richard Mille, let's be honest, they're making over 4,000 watches a year at this point. So 30 pieces of the Pablo Mac Donough Tourbillon would amount to roughly 1/3 of Greubel Forsey's entire annual production. There were 3 new Greubels this year. The differential d'égalité would be the watch I would actually buy, and if this were a head-to-head with that versus the RM, I would pick the differential. That would be my Greubel, that would be my choice. But I wanted to compare this year's Ultimate RM and really one of only 2 novelties. They had an RM7 ladies watch, so we're not really going to discuss that too much, although I've got a video on my channel. But the bottom line is, given this RM versus this Greubel, I would take this RM. I love the color of it. I love the fact that it's an everyday, all day, any day kind of watch. 5 ATM water resistant, but they say they do test it over that, so it's safe for swimming. Not diving, but swimming, and that's important to me for a sports watch. Being as shock resistant as it is useful for me, but what really matters to me is that it's almost impossible to make a mark in it. There are a lot of things that are almost impossible to destroy that you can nevertheless significantly disfigure. The TPT carbon on this watch is impossible to scratch. I watched a Richard Mille rep, take a razor and a nail and then a piece of abrasive paste and try to make a mark in this case. It couldn't be done. Also feather light, that's impressive. Now the sapphire itself is just as scratch resistant as you would expect a sapphire to be, plus it's shatter resistant, which means it's got an extra degree of resilience. And this is one of the few Richard Mille watches, one of the Audemars Piguet Renoir Papy movements, that is not just a repurposed DD module and a Vaucher base caliber. This is really haute de gamme watchmaking of the purest kind. It's not finished as nice as the Greubel, but it is from the same kind of lineage. It does have the same kind of high horology credentials. Plus, add the color, that would be my pick, the RM.
Yeah, and it's very interesting to see a company who puts as much research and development money into material science as this go with something as functional as that Velcro strap, and something that's really just meant to throw it on your wrist without a moment's notice and just jump off a bridge or something. It's crazy.
Yeah, Pablo Mac Donough said, I want it on Velcro. And he is the superstar polo player from Argentina who inspired this timepiece and its predecessor. You can see right there the different pulleys on the flank of the movement that allow the movement to effectively be suspended from a titanium frame that runs the circumference of the case. So it's kind of pinned up there and suspended. And again, it's just like a trampoline, keeping the movement isolated from shock. So that would be my pick. It wouldn't be my pick of all the watches launched at the show or even among all the Greubels, but this Greubel versus this RM, you done well. All right, Instagram update. Guys, you can follow me on Instagram, Tim_Mosso. You can see all of my posts from SIHH 2018, plus all the posts to come. I've probably got a year of Instagram material saved up, and I'm going to be posting a lot of video in the next week. So help me get up to 4,000 followers. That would be super cool and a great way to end the first leg of our 2018 new model year. Check me out, Tim_Mosso on Instagram to keep the discussion flowing after the show ends. Okay, so let me ask you right off the cuff, Jason, what was your impression of this year's Vacheron 56 collection? Entry-level watches, 3 new models, steel or rose gold?
You know, it's interesting to see new model launches. I think there was some potential. I think it might have missed the mark a little bit for me. Seems to be with Vacheron that a lot of people are one side of the fence or the other. There's usually not this overwhelming take to the watches. So I guess it'll see how well it sells through and what the demand is, and then we'll see how it does.
Yeah, the thing about this collection is that it's conservative and it's entry level. And when you have a conservative entry-level piece for a company that is supposed to be, you know, shoulder to shoulder with the likes of Patek Philippe and Audemars Piguet, you naturally get a little bit reticent, you get a little bit nervous and gun-shy. You don't want to judge them at face value, but at the same time, you realize Vacheron Constantin will be doing things in this collection that it has not done in a long time, like going off the Geneva hallmark. So this is a collection that was controversial from the beginning, and now I have held it in my hand, and I'm going to honor Russell W.'s question about this line. So Russell W. asks, Tim, I have a question about the new Vacheron 56 collection. Now, I'm not a guy who would normally look at Vacheron, but the 56 intrigues me. This is a good sign, guys. Vacheron wants to bring new people into the brand. So my question is the new simple 3-hand automatic with date worth the price of admission? I've never spent $10,000 on a watch, especially not in steel on a strap, so what do you think? Well, here's the thing. There are 3 models in the 56 collection. There's the automatic with date, there's the day date with power reserve, and there's the triple calendar. Entry level, the automatic with date does not have a Geneva hallmark caliber. So let's talk about what you do get. The Vacheron Constantin 56 self-winding, which is what it's technically called, costs $11,700 US in steel. So to its credit, the Vacheron features a richly appointed dial. I was concerned that it would be a printed dial with cheap-looking hands, that it would be something that looked and felt like a price point product. And I'm happy to say it doesn't. They did not take too many risks with the style, but it's handsome. No one's going to object to this. When you look at the dial, it features multiple different finishings, a metallic minute track outboard, a sunburst metallic hour track, and then there's an opaline or frosted center. The indices and the numerals are in white gold, as are the hands at center. Everything is an applique on the dial except the printed name. So this is a watch that looks more expensive than it is from the front. Now the case design, they say it's inspired by the reference 6073 of 1956. I see it in the overriders of the bezel, but not in the lugs. So okay, there's a little bit of a vintage flair there, but it's a good looking watch. The dial is richly finished, and I think looking at it from the front, you might guess it's either what it costs or even a little bit more. Now, it's also available in rose gold, but let's face it, upgrading to rose gold moves the price from $11,700 to $19,400. All of a sudden, we're within JLC Master Ultra Thin Perpetual, and I don't think once you move into that realm that the watch is still competitive. So steel is real and it's the way to go. Now, running gear on this model is probably going to be best in class as far as finish goes among mass-produced automatic watches priced at about $11,000. So it uses the caliber 1326, and if you're wondering what this is and where it comes from, it's built by Richemont's Valfleurier movement arm, which is kind of a quiet little company that builds movements for those Richemont firms that haven't traditionally made movements or need to hit a price point. It's better known as the 2012 to present Cartier MC 1904. So if you're familiar with the MC 1904, that's in the Calibre de Cartier and the Calibre de Cartier diver, this is basically that, but it is finished better. Okay, the self-winding is it's the only automatic movement in the 56 line that is not Geneva hallmark finished. It is still nicely finished with a hand-executed, skeletonized and polished Maltese cross-style gold winding rotor, so they're not using tungsten as the winding mass. The finish on that rotor is not executed by machine, even though it is executed by machine on the bridges and plates. It's very nicely done. It has good movement finish. I think for $11,700, you're not going to be disappointed. The question becomes, what could you have at or below that price that's competitive? And there are some competitive alternatives, starting in the Richemont family. Okay. Rivals, Jaeger-LeCoultre's steel Master Control black dial, applied white gold dart style indices and matching polished Dauphine hands. This is a nice watch, and it's a nice watch for $6,350 US with a full deployant clasp. For the record, the self-winding 56 automatic in steel does feature a deployant clasp. The 56 in rose gold always features a pin buckle. That said, for roughly half the price, roughly, of the 56 self-winding, this black dial master is sexy. And I'll also say this, the Master Control sector dial, which was all the rage last year at SIHH, this is a watch that has a printed dial. It is not appointed like the Vacheron, but at $5,700 US, it's awfully competitive. And I would even go so far as to say the caliber 939, absent the hand-finished winding rotor, is a good-looking movement. The caliber 939 on the Master Control, identical for either version, black dial or sector, is a handsome movement. And again, you're getting a gold winding rotor here, so it's not like it's tungsten, it's not like it's a base metal. It won't be quite as nicely finished as the VC, but it's not far off. And for $5,700, the same size 40 millimeters, or I should say 39, as the Vacheron, which is 40, it's so close that I think you can forgive any small lapse in finish. This is a compelling alternative. What do you think of that versus the 56 Auto?
So the 56, I'm gonna say something that
please be honest.
I don't look at that watch and think, why wouldn't I just buy a 5196?
Okay.
To me, I mean, you're talking sector dial, applied numerals, like the watch. We have to say that 5196 is arguably a more handsome watch.
A basic Patek caliber.
Right. So I mean, if you're talking about one that's a few years old, you know, I spend the money on the Patek, but it's a handsome watch. I think, you know, what you're seeing, the sticker price and what they actually go for in the secondary, you know, there'll be a big differential there. So a lot of guys are going to get into this piece a little bit cheaper. It's going to be, like I said, it's up in the air whether or not it's going to trade well. So I always have a little bit of reserve on that, whereas the Patek's going to be a little bit more of a surefire thing. When you're talking to a buyer, it's kind of always on the back burner is what's it going to hold, what's it going to sell for. So.
And it's an entry-level watch, so I think it'll actually hold its value better, far better, if you buy it in steel than if you buy it in gold. That's just a rule of the market. But I also think it's going to hold its value better than something like the $15,000 steel Key de Lille. I mean, I think if you were to buy that watch for $15,000 and buy this watch for $11,700, that the Key de Lille in steel for $15,000 would lose a greater percentage of its value and a greater absolute amount than this would. So in that sense, I think this is probably a better entry-level watch for VC, but I'm going to have in-depth analysis on the 56 a little later in the show. Now, I will say that for just a bit more than this $11,700, you could buy a GPHG award winner. Now, What am I talking about? Of course, I'm talking about the Bulgari Octo Finissimo Automatic, the micro rotor in titanium. 5.15 millimeters thick. You can get it either on the full bracelet for approximately $13,900, full titanium bracelet, very comfortable, or you can get it for $12,800 on a strap. This is an impressive watch, technically far more accomplished than the Vacheron with its Val-Fleurier/Cartier movement. This is a beautiful hand-finished caliber, and this is where I think the Vacheron runs into a little bit more trouble, because this is a sexy watch in a comparable case size that is acclaimed, awarded, recognized, and a landmark watch, not just for Bulgari, but for the industry. So this is what I would pick for the same amount of money, and I do feel like with these having been out for a year now, pre-owned is available. Some dealers might be able to cut you a little bit of a deal. I don't think there are going to be big discounts on these because I think inventory is lean, and this is a popular, successful watch that sold new, sells close to list. But pay a little bit more, pay an extra grand and a half, and I think you get that much more watch with the Bulgari. It's a handsome, winning watch, and it's the one that I would choose if I were picking within this category, within this price range.
This is the this or that. This is what we should have done. So that the Bulgari, the Finissimo, is fantastic. It's everything that you would think it would be. If you haven't put one on your wrist, you owe it to yourself to do so. The watch just disappears. It's nice and thin, but the full titanium bracelet, it hunkers down to the wrist, and it's very comfortable. Micro rotor's awesome. I have a client who's currently looking at one of these, and he told me that he walked into the Bulgari boutique and they basically told him there's no discount. So they're playing it very close to the chest. They know they have a winner here. They are going pre-owns. I have seen a few in the $11,000 range. I think the watch is much worth it. Maybe in a few years I might own one if they get down, a little bit farther than that. I like the watch quite a bit.
I have to say, it's no contest. Unless you're dead set on the Vacheron, this is the choice. This is the one to go for, and this is the no regrets piece. And I actually think it will hold its value well. So that's the question. I hope we were helpful, Russell. Ibrahim S. asks an interesting question as well. Now, he follows our YouTube and he likes the content. He's from Lebanon and he's looking to make a big splash for his 40th birthday. But he likes the Aquanaut 5167A, which is your standard 40 millimeter automatic, 120 meter water resistant Aquanaut on a rubber strap. But he acknowledges it's about a $17,000 US watch, and he's told in Lebanon a 2-year waiting list that he will have to deal with. So he's looking to spend $10,000 realistically with a premium placed on a watch he can get soon without a wait or with a minimal wait. So first of all, off the bat, what are you thinking, Jason? For $10,000, a watch that's available now, that's a sports watch.
That's a sports watch. Judging by the Patek, I'm going to say, there's a lot of different references out there. Maybe an overseas,
Generation 2,
yeah,
maybe?
Generation 2 non-chrono, something like that. As far as a sports watch is going to do really well. Obviously, there's Rolex. I don't know if you want to go down that route if you're looking for something as special as the Patek. There could be a cool couple Glashoots or some JLCs in there. I'm sure there's probably 10 or 15 watches that you could name off.
And if you're willing to go pre-owned, your options expand dramatically because there are too many $15,000 and $20,000 watches that have become $10,000 watches after 2-3 years.
Yeah, I don't know about the 2-year wait list on the Patek. I think it's a little bit more like if you ever see one again at this point.
It might be, yeah, exactly.
It's 2 years is generous, I would say. 2 years is what the boutique tells you so that you don't come back.
Yeah, pretty much. So I would say your best bet would be right now to be looking at a Generation 2 Vacheron Constantin Overseas. Either a chronograph, the automatic, the dual time. They're great watches. They're all powered by excellent movements, whether from Frédéric Piguet or Jaeger-LeCoultre. They're rugged, 150 meters water resistant, anti-magnetic, very wearable. You can get them on straps, you can get them on bracelets, but buying with the bracelet is the way to go for value because it would always cost more to buy the bracelet as an accessory. So with that suggestion right off the bat, we've got some alternatives that I think you might enjoy, Ibrahim. So consider, for instance, around $10,000, available immediately, an Audemars Piguet Royal Oak 14790, produced from the 80s till about 2007. This was the 36.5, 37 millimeter mid-size automatic Royal Oak that ran alongside the Jumbo, the 39mm traditional extra thin for many years. It wears like a 49, well, not a 49, but a 39-40mm steel round watch, because the integrated bracelet and the lugs, it does wear a little bigger, so it's got good wrist presence. Now, this is a watch built in many versions, in many metals, in many styles, even many dials. But if you want to get the standard steel watch with a black or a blue or a silver dial, you're going to find you pay between $10,000 and $11,000 pre-owned. It's powered by a JLC automatic in the Grand Audemars tradition. They have links going back to the 19th century. That works for me, especially for serviceability. But it's also a watch that offers some unique variants, like, for instance, the Epic Military Dial, which is the version I would buy if I were shopping $14,790. Plus, it has the same kind of pedigree you expect from the Aquanaut, because it comes from that same lineage. It has that same big three sports watch, dress watch kind of dual-purpose versatility, as well as patrimony. I would also say, if you want to look at something that's currently in production and buying new, it's going to be right in your wheelhouse price-wise. Glasuta Original 70s Panorama Date. Now, this is a watch, 40mm, roughly square, that you can get either on the bracelet that you see here for $11,600, or you can get it on a rubber or a leather strap for $10,100, and that's buying new at list. Used versions are available because it's been out for a few years, and to be honest, discounts are probably available, small discounts at authorized dealers, so you can get right where you want to be price-wise with a watch that is 100 meters water resistant, features a manufacturer automatic movement with a display case back. Get it on the bracelet for ultimate versatility and value, and you get an awesome deployant clasp with a push-button micro-adjust slider, and of course the Panorama Date, the Sunburst blue dial. This is an attractive watch that looks every inch what the Aquanaut brings to the table, and maybe even a bit more. Also available, silver and anthracite gray, so you have some options there as well. This is actually the one I think I would pick.
This is a great pick. In contrast, I think as I'm thinking about it though, the Piaget, the Polo S, might be a good option as well. In stainless steel, they have a couple different dial variations. I think that would compete just as well. These though can be had for a much better price pre-owned. I'm actually seeing the Chronograph on the market for right around $7,000 pre-owned. So there's quite a bit to be had for the money.
Handsome watches, wearable watches, true sports watches, and they're also appropriate with the suit. So this is a watch you could wear all the time. If you're looking to make a splash, Ibrahim, for your 40th birthday, you're probably going to want a watch that you can wear as often as possible to remind you of the occasion, and this would be that. It's not your last option, though, as SIHH has rolled around and suddenly you have new choices. And I'm going to throw out the 2018 JLC Polaris Memovox. Stainless steel and 42mm. It's not quite as compact as the Aquanaut, but it's going to have a comparable wrist presence and a real pedigree. 50 years since the 1968 version of the Polaris, 10 years after the tribute to Polaris, this is going to be a limited run of 1,000 pieces, and it features some exclusives that you will not find on other members of the new Polaris collection. For instance, the vanilla coloration of the indices and hands, that's only on the Memovox, as well as the automatic date. Plus, it has a dramatically domed sapphire that you can't see from this angle, but it has tremendous loft and a bubble-like look, like a vintage plexiglass. With 1,000 pieces available in stainless steel, this will be a sellout. And I've seen the tribute to Polaris in the last 10 years really hold its value well, so I'm confident that this watch is going to do the same. I think it's the most appealing watch next to the Chronograph World Time. It's a dead heat for me. It also features a rubber strap so you can take it in the water, 200 meters water resistant. So it's a real sports watch, but it's also elegant enough to wear with just about anything. And the alarm for me is the ultimate complication because I use it all the time. At home, keeping meetings and appointments, and traveling to keep myself on a foreign timetable in foreign time zones. This would be a great choice. And for $12,600 US, there won't be discounts, but there also probably won't be a long wait, as JLC is very good at getting its novelties out to dealers quickly. So I expect this one to be available within the next 1 to 2 months. Okay, so let me ask you a question. What did you think of the Polaris collection this year?
I actually like the watch quite a bit. I think it lends itself very well to being a wearable watch, something you can wear every day. Obviously, it has the vintage nostalgia to it with the vanilla indices. It's handsome. You know, stainless steel entry level, not necessarily entry level, stainless steel, simple complication JLCs always do pretty well on a secondary as well. So it's a piece you'll get into for a certain amount and won't lose your shorts. It's a nice looking watch as well. I would wear that all the time.
These are handsome watches. I think this and the Chrono World Time with the blue dial are probably the definitive versions. And the price is right. For a limited edition watch that's going to be in demand under $13,000 with a useful complication. Guys, this is actually a note for my production crew. I'm getting some notes about chopping and uneven streaming. So if you're running anything that's a bandwidth hog back there alongside the streamer, let's go into conservation mode and just focus on the stream if we can. Anyone who's sticking with us, please. I'm sure it'll be temporary. It might be that the boutique staff downstairs all turned on their phones at the same time and started YouTubing. I don't know. We'll try to fix it. Stick with us, though. We're going to try. All right. So moving along, here's a question from Franklin A. And he asks a question that cuts right to the heart of SIHH 2018. Who had a good show, who didn't, and what did you like best from a personal standpoint? Jason, what did you like best, and what did you think left room for improvement?
So I actually think that some of the best things that came out of the show were some of the companies that maybe go a little under the radar, like some of these more, I guess, quote-unquote production brands. So I thought IWC had a great show. I thought AP had a great show. JLC put some nice stuff out. So for me, you know, the super watches are fun, and it's cool to see the stuff that's unobtainable, and I wish I could have gone. Luckily, following your Instagram coverage, felt like I was there. But, you know, that stuff's cool to think about, but for me, it's the stuff that I'll actually put on my wrist and maybe pull the trigger on. So I like some of the production stuff. Obviously, under 10 grand, 20 grand is going to be more wheelhouse for a lot of people, but I thought a lot of brands put out some really interesting stuff.
Was there anything that you thought maybe left you wondering what second half or pre-Basel releases might look like? Just thinking like, you know, these guys needed to move the needle more? And you can be honest.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I always try and shoot straight, but it's interesting because we were talking earlier, the SIHH show seems to be like the new
it's
shiny car in the showroom.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, Basel, so I'm not really expecting much from Basel, to be honest. I think that we got a lot of bang for the buck out of this show, and it'll be cool to see some of the stuff that comes out of Basel. I thought, actually, the one brand I thought had a fantastic show was Montblanc. Yeah,
they did.
They put out some really nice stuff, and they will sell watches from this show. So that mono pusher in the green, I'm waiting to see that in person. I'm probably going to buy that watch.
I did. You will.
Yeah. I mean, I'd probably ditch the green strap, to be honest, and put it on a NATO. But the watch is fantastic. It looks great.
Guys, if you're not familiar with this, is the Montblanc 1858 mono pusher chronograph. For the first time, you're getting one of the Montblanc Villeray, the Minerva chronographs, in a size that's normal. They used to be 44 or 47. With the new caliber 1321, you get the same level of finish, 50-hour power reserve, manual wind, column wheel, big slow beat balance, but you get it in a 40mm stainless steel watch. And for me, the buried lead of this story is that the watch is also 100 meters water resistant, so you throw it on a NATO, you've got a do-it-all watch.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Sunburst green dial. If you're familiar with last year's Montblanc only watch, it's like that. Only this one you can buy in 100 pieces. And it's going to be under 28,000 US dollars, so it's priced right. For the way it's finished and executed, it's priced right.
Yeah, and in 5 years, it'll be something I can buy.
Hey, it looks like our streaming chop has improved, guys, so thank you. Whatever you did, you're magicians back there. Okay, so going back to SIHH 2018, Franklin asked, who rocked, who didn't, what were the highlights from a personal standpoint for you, Tim? Okay, IWC 2018, they had the year that they should have had in 2017. I admired them last year, making it the year of the Da Vinci, but that is like casting Brendan Fraser as the lead in a blockbuster movie. You might get away with it every once in a while, but he's not that kind of actor. You need someone like a Baldwin brother, and not one of the minor Baldwin brothers, like Alec Baldwin. So if you're going to cast a lead, the Da Vinci is not it. That's the Brendan Fraser, but the 150th anniversary Jubilee collection this year, that's the Alec Baldwin. And prime Alec Baldwin, back when he was doing Tom Clancy movies. So this collection rocked. From the top of the line with the Portuguese Constant Escapement, the Constant Force, to the 3716, the new Portuguese or Chronograph automatic, they were strong. And I have to say, the tribute to Paul Weber, the steel model that we didn't see until the show, the tribute to Paul Weber, $23,100 in steel with a blue lacquered dial, very fairly priced for what's effectively a Zeitwerk at 1/4 of the price in steel. The dial takes 10 layers of lacquer before an 11th step, which is hand polishing. Jumping minutes, jumping hours, and a unique caliber, 94-200, found only in this reference. Those 500 pieces are going to vanish. And I mean vaporize. Also, at the entry level, the Portuguese Chronograph, the reference 3716, after 20 years, finally succeeds the 3714, the most popular, best-selling Portuguese of all time. So that watch becomes an in-house model in stainless steel that is going to cost, in its anniversary variant, $7,150, probably around $7,000 or even a little bit less. When it becomes a series production model, this is the watch that's going to pay the bills and do the kind of volumes without undermining the credibility or the integrity of the brand that they could have used last year rather than the Da Vinci family. This is a watch that's going to sell tens of thousands of copies, and with a clear conscience and absolutely no consequence to the brand, this is what a mainstream model for IWC should look like. Okay, Moser. I promised you guys one thing before I left for SIHH. Moser might have had a better show than anyone, and first I was asked, did the Swiss Icons watch, the Frankenstein, actually exist? I promised you an answer, and the answer, per my contacts, is yes. This watch exists. This is the real thing. It's a functional watch. It's not a Photoshop. It's not a mock-up. I doubt it will ever again see the light of day, but it absolutely existed, and that's from Moser directly. Okay, that said, Moser is quietly satisfied with the publicity it got. If you subscribe to the notion that no publicity is bad publicity, then this watch was the best PR stunt, and I'm going to call it that, of the last 10 years in the watch industry. Everyone was talking about Moser at the show. They started talking because of this watch. They continued because the novelties were great. Okay, all 60 of the Endeavor Flying Hours, their take on the Star Wheel, all 60 of them in white gold sold out, and at a price of about $32,500 US, very fairly priced. They tell me they spent $1 million to develop this movement. There's no way they're only making 60 of them, but this blue fume funky dial, the funky blue dial with fume gradient, and the white gold case, this will be a 60-piece series. They're already all sold out. So unless you want to get in contact with a dealer that might have a single piece, and no dealer got more than one, this watch was a huge sales success for Moser, a company that makes at most 1,500 watches a year at this point. Now, the 2018 Endeavor Tourbillon concept, which we saw at the end of 2017, was just as beautiful as when we first saw the photos. It has a wonderful fluid case that's almost salacious. This is XXX watch porn, beautifully fluid, lithe, sensuous, and on that dial, explosive in the tonal contrast from periphery to center. This is Moser doing what it does best, and absolutely gorgeous on both sides, as well as in profile, and very few watches are as attractive in profile as they are on the front and the back. Also, note the use of a kudu strap. So if, like me, you're a fan of East African antelope, this is a great skin option that's an alternative to lizard, alligator, horse, and cow. And it's nice in that you can just smooth over any scratches or scuffs. So an unusual choice, a little bit agricultural in its grain, but kudu on a gradient funky blue dial. Moser, I love you. And for about $70,000, well worth the price. Okay, what did you think of those Moser watches, Jason?
I always love their watches. Their dials are gorgeous. Almost, and this might be sacrilegious, almost kind of annoying that that is an open dial, because that dial's so gorgeous that I feel like I'm missing something. But something, you know, they're just beautiful pieces, and I think anybody's lucky to own one. I did see a comment here in the chat, so I just wanted to bring that up, which is the new Vacheron Chronograph.
Yes. Which
we didn't touch on yet. I just wanted to let everybody know that from the first reports that I'm hearing from people that were at the show and some of the guys from our crew that went, is that it is 44 millimeter, but it seems to wear smaller, which I'm happy to hear. So I think that's going to be a nice thing. What did you put on your wrist?
You know, it's a very compact watch when you actually wear it. I think there is a little bit of a trade-off in the gap between the size of the bracelet and the size of the case. In order to make it wear compact for such a big watch, they had to dramatically neck down the size of the lugs to a relatively narrow taper and a relatively narrow bracelet. I'm not sure how I feel about the look of it, although mechanically, intellectually, it's gorgeous. And the caliber is beautiful. I'm waiting to see the platinum version, and guys, it's going to be unveiled at Watches and Wonders Miami in February, and I've been promised an exclusive, so you'll see it here first. 3 variants, titanium, rose gold, and platinum. You haven't seen the platinum yet. It's going to have purplish counters on a silver dial, so watch this space. Okay, what else do we know? AP is red hot. I don't think any brand top to bottom except maybe Montblanc did as well as AP did. They had a rock star press conference from brand historian Michael Friedman that was easily the most fun of all the press conferences from the 34 brands. Plus, I can tell you that across the board, from the mass market watches to the grand complications, there wasn't a single dud. So what were my favorites? Well, I love the turquoise offshore diver. Dynamite. I love this. More turquoise watches, please. 42 millimeters, absolutely stunning. This appeals to that part of my heart that I left in Miami. Okay, the indigo blue offshore chronograph. Sensational. This is a blue we haven't really seen. Almost a signal blue, with AP's first use of blue ceramic on the crown guard as well as the pushers. You can see this is a sensational color that really pops in person. And they matched it with the ceramic, they matched it with the strap. Again, if you like colors, they don't get much better than this. The Jumbo 15202 IP, the gradient dial with a platinum bezel, all of high polish, and a titanium bracelet and case. This is a watch that is so hot it almost burned. You can see a wrist shot that I did in my video reviews on Watchbox Studios. It looks even better in person. And then finally, the Royal Oak Research and Development number 2, the RD number 2, 6.3 millimeters thick, the world's thinnest automatic winding perpetual calendar, entirely in platinum. It's as thin and limpet-like on the wrist as you can imagine, and yet wonderfully massive with full platinum construction. I'm told that this will be a production model to the point that though it's considered a concept watch, its reference 26586 PT, so it already has an AP reference number. Expect a very limited series of these watches. How about AP this year?
Yeah, it's been great. You didn't even the Commander, the camo.
Yeah,
that
the camo
thing is money. And if I had the money, I would have that watch. For me, that's the one that spoke out. Although the perpetual is really nice, but that Commander with the green ceramic is something. It'll
look different on a different strap. The camo is going to be polarizing, but I think the combination of the beige dial and they call it a khaki green ceramic bezel is really slick. I can't wear the 44 offshore, but if you can, boom, bomber. Okay, so conservatism. Vacheron Constantin with the 56, Jaeger-LeCoultre with the Polaris family, and Panerai with the Luminor logo entry-level watches, as well as the Luminor Due 38 to 42 millimeters, all conservative families. The JLC Polaris collection is a tribute-inspired series of watches. These are watches that are handsome. I think they're going to be uncontroversial. They're going to sell well. You can get them on 2 straps in leather, alligator or calf, on a bracelet or on rubber, any one of them. I think from 41 millimeters to 44, the 44 is in titanium. Anyone can wear these watches, very comfortable. They all have an air de famille about them. So not only do they look very coherent, but they're clearly related to the source material, the Polaris 68. And finally, with the most expensive of them in titanium, priced at about $14,000, you can pay more for the rose gold chronograph, but why? They're reasonably priced and accessible. That said, I really feel like JLC is going to have a strong second stage as more adventurous watches come out pre-Basel, mid-year, and end of year. This is going to help keep the lights on in Le Sentier and improve the company's volumes. And it's also, I'm told, going to replace some of the current Master Extreme lines like the Compressors and the Deep Seas. So there's going to be a little bit of a sea change in the JLC sports watch catalog. Vacheron Constantin with the 56 collection, the beautiful watches, they're very satisfying in the hand. I think the pictures, the press photos look very flat and anodyne. I don't think they're like that at all in person, having handled all of them. See these watches in person. Are they conservative? Yes. That said, I think they're also important because they're attractive, appealing, nicely sized at 40 millimeters, and as the Generation 3 Overseas has moved to a price point 20, 30, and higher, you know, in terms of thousands. They're no longer entry-level watches like the Overseas were when they first were introduced in generation 1 and 2. So this fills that void, and I think that Vacheron is tacitly admitting with these watches that the key to Lille at $15,000 in steel is always going to be a little bit too polarizing and quirky to be a true gateway watch, an entry-level watch. That's going to be shouldered aside a bit by the new 56. So a conservative watch, but a nicely made line that's going to serve an important purpose and hopefully get Vacheron back to where it needs to be by bringing new people into the brand and starting them on that ladder up to grand complications. Finally, Officine Panerai addressed the entry level with the Panerai Luminor logo collection. You're getting a P6000 3-day manual wind movement. So now Panerai is all, they're saying, in-house calibers. The ETAs are officially gone. There are going to be 6 of these, 3 Luminor base, 3 Luminor Merino with small seconds. Conservative, 44 millimeters manual wind stainless steel. Also, with the Luminor Due 38mm to 42, Panerai is going where it has not hitherto gone, which is a direct appeal to female buyers. I think these will be successful, but with 30 meters water resistance and a series of dials that are often ivory colored, rose gold cases in smaller sizes. There's the 42 Fu, which I think is targeted towards East Asian buyers. And I think this is going to be a different kind of Panerai. Both of these collections are conservative. I think Panerai will have a sensational second stage. These were not groundbreakers. They were meat of the market watches.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not a big fan of the Duets, but I do think that these pieces are generally, you know, focused to women, which is kind of counterproductive, I would say, in the fact that most women, the reason they go to the Panerai is because they like wearing that 44mm Luminor because it's got that boyfriend watch look.
Or at least a 42 or a 40.
Yeah, but, you know, they'll sell, which is nice. We will see quite a bit of them on the secondary market, I can promise you that. But they're cool looking.
I would say they're going to be popular watches. They're going to be polarizing watches. I think they're going to be a lot of classical Paneristi, the guys who have been on the forums since the late 90s. They're not going to want to go anywhere near these watches, and I think this series, the Luminor logo collection and the Duets in 38 to 42, is outgoing Panerai CEO Angelo Bonatti's legacy move. He wants to be remembered as the guy who took Panerai all-manufacturer movement, who expanded their volumes to the threshold of 100,000 watches a year, who brought new markets into the Panerai fold, and I think he's comfortable offending a few classicists in the name of dramatically increasing the scope of the collection, the pedigree of the collection, and the number of watches sold outright. I think that's an important goal with Panerai, and I think these will help to reach that goal.
It's an important goal for any brand, and I think, you know, you always have to kind of be willing to push the limits. I just hope that we don't see these turn into like the Series 600 watches from a few years back. Sure. That just kind of get collectors say they're not good, so then nobody wants them. But I think that enough people are looking at Panerai now that, you know, this applies to you can buy your girlfriend a watch, you can buy your wife a watch, and it's easier to come home with the new watch if you have one for her as well. That's a pro tip.
Cliff Notes history lesson, the 600 series that Jason references, this was a series of, I want to say, model year 2016 Panerai watches for the most part that featured snapback cases, ETA movements, and pinhole release lugs, and people felt that they kind of lowered the bar in order to appeal to the lowest common denominator, that the watches, a lot of people did not feel that those 3 measures were an appropriate way to cut costs from the price. They were popular watches, but I think this is a better direction. I think these watches do have integrity in terms of build quality, mechanics, and the sensation you get in the hand. I don't think compromises were made here. Whether they'll appeal universally, we'll find out. Okay, so now a question, what did I like personally, not picking winners and losers in industry speak, but what would I, Tim Mosso, have taken home from SIHH given carte blanche, or I should say check blanche? Okay, the HYT H20 is epic. I love this watch. This is the new HYT fluid display. Okay, they're a hydromechanical watch brand. They've been around since about 2012, making production watches. This is a take on 2 watches. Their H2, which came out in 2013, and the H0, which came out last year. They take the H2's Audemars Piguet Renault Papy designed movement, which is Ultra Haute de Gamme 8-day with a V-twin style twin register arrangement. They take that high horology movement and they put it inside the lugless case from last year's H0. You get a 51mm watch that wears as though it's a 42 or a 43 round watch. Super compatible with a smaller wrist. They're going to make 25 pieces in this blue and white accented version you see here. Beautiful blue sandblasted titanium bridges. This is high horology finish as well as engineering. And then they're going to make a series blackened with green accents that I love. 25 pieces of each, around 100,000 US dollars. Super, and I would buy this, I would wear it, I've put it on the wrist, and I've loved it. HYT is a brand you need to consider with a gorgeous 3D sapphire domed, almost like a synthetic crystal bubble, and then a fantastic lugless case design that just fits a treat and has to be tried to truly appreciate. Okay, this is a brand that deserves more coverage, and I'm working on that. I'm trying to bring in some HYT. I would like to have 3 or 4 watches from the current collection. I've spoken to their brand leaders. I think this is going to happen, guys. Fingers crossed. Okay. Chronometrie Ferdinand Berthoud launched a sequel to the GPHG Aguilar winner from 2016, the FB 1.1. Say hello to the regulator FB 1R6. Okay, this is the new watch with regulator dial featuring a beautiful satin finished dial with the same underlying mechanics but with separate displays for hours, minutes, and seconds, and a unique dial side spring driven power reserve indicator. Okay, so you get the same COSC certified tourbillon movement with fusée. That's the chain constant force device. Beautiful on the backside. It's a pillar style movement, meaning the plates are made of nickel copper, or what's known as German silver, with titanium pillars in between. So the movement has extraordinary depth. The highest level of finish. It gets even better with the new dial layout, making it even a little bit easier to view at a glance. This new dial layout, sensational in detail and beautifully hand finished. I'll also say it features a carburized stainless steel lugless 44mm octagonal case inspired by vintage Ferdinand Berthoud marine chronometers of the 18th century. Now the watch wears compact because, like my old JLC Snowdrop vintage, it has no lugs. So you can wear this watch easily, and with the carburized steel case, which is a world premiere, you can actually go to town using a screwdriver against the case and not make a mark in it. It's all the scratch resistance of ceramic with 1200 plus Vickers hardness, but with the fracture resistance of steel. I love it, and I think that for 230,000 US dollars, those 20 pieces will find loving homes, and I think they'll actually find a groundswell of demand for subsequent versions of this watch in other metals. I would get it in steel because this is an everyday beatable watch that's also high horology. And finally, the JLC Reverso Tribute Small Seconds. This is the JLC that excited me most this year. It's approximately 45.6 millimeters lug to lug and about 27 millimeters wide, 8.5 thick, so it's pretty thin, especially considering the revolving case. Casafaliano strap in blue for the first time, and what really makes this watch spectacular is that for under $8,000 you get a chameleon of a dial that changes to royal purple. It actually changes to purple seamlessly from blue in an instant on the wrist. That is no filters, guys. That is actually what the eye perceives when you see this watch in person under the right light. Absolutely sensational. This was JLC's best watch for 2018 so far. Watch this space. Okay. Jason, I will give you the last word. What was your favorite of SIHH? Money, no object. What would you take home?
That's tough. I was probably most excited to see the Journe chronograph come out. I like Journe quite a bit. It's a watch that I've watchmaker and company that I've kind of fallen in love with live late, and I like my watches a little bit larger. I heard the 44, I immediately thought it was going to be too big. I'm happy to hear that it's wearing a little smaller. If I was going to take one watch, it'd probably be that. Number 2 watch would probably be the Mont Blanc Mono Pusher.
Yeah, that's definitely compelling. I would say for me, I fell in love. I actually wound up with the world exclusive for the Ferdinand Berthoud 1R6. So apart from the fact that I was kind of the first in the press to get my hands on it, the watch is sensational to me. So between that special, memorable moment, which was a great breakthrough for our channel, and the fact that I love the watch, that's the one I'd take home. And you know, the price is no object. It doesn't appeal to me more because it's expensive. It appeals to me more because it's beautiful. All that said, guys, we had a bunch of questions about the show itself, and those are going to have to wait till next Monday. I'm going to skip straight to the chase, which is an Instagram update. Keep the questions rolling. I will furiously work to answer all the questions posted same day on my Instagram posts. It's actually the best way to reach me directly, so follow me at Tim_Mosso on Instagram, and you can see my feed updated daily. I like to do video, and I like to chat it up in the comments. Until then, guys, comment in the description box below here. I'll do my best to respond, and please subscribe. Help us to hit the next major mark. We're pushing for 40,000. Thanks so much. I'm Tim, he's Jason. This is Watchbox, and thanks for logging on.